Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Silver Stackers, we got some stuff to talk about in this video. We're going to be covering silver, but not only silver, gold. Silver versus gold, but also is silver divorcing gold? Is silver starting to take on a life of its own? I had this theory probably a year or two ago that silver would, but are we starting to finally see that happening? We have a couple of articles that are going to explain this from a deeper perspective, really get in behind the scenes and look at some charts and see if it is happening now. But I have a question. Do you invest into silver and gold or purely silver? I actually asked my local coin shop owner the same question. This is what he said. He said he likes both, but he does see more potential in silver. And it makes sense. Silver is extremely undervalued where gold isn't really undervalued. Plus, silver is a win-win situation, which we'll also talk about. Now, you can see this site right here, and you can see a whole bunch of different articles. This is Metals Daily. This is where I get most of my content. They post every single article that talks about silver on a daily basis, and there's a lot. You can see today's the 15th, and these are all articles written today down to here. So here on up are all the articles that talk about silver. I go through each and every one of these and pick the best 2 or 3, the most relevant, the ones that bring new light into the silver market that day. On a daily basis, I do this, and here's all the way to the 14th. So all these articles were written within a 2-day basis, and I've searched through all of these and picked the top 5 or 6, and I make videos out of them. That's why you got to be subscribed, because every article that has new information, new insight, brings a good point to the table, I find it and I make a video that day about it. So you got to be subscribed. Now, this article is a good one, and I like because it says on pure fundamentals. We also have another article that the Silver Institute posted in this Metals Daily thing right here. You can see Silver Institute cover prices higher, and I like it because it's a Q&A, and this is from the director of the Silver Institute. So he taught, they asked this guy, which the Silver Institute is the holy grail of information. They asked this guy, what are his expectations for silver in 2021? What factors do you believe that make silver the metal of the year? How will Mexico be affected by the increase in prices and demand for silver, which is a really, that's really the reason I wanted to make, add this in the video. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we got some good content today. The link to these articles will be in the description. You don't want to miss this. Make sure you like, comment down below. I already asked you a question if you like silver and gold or just silver. Make sure you answer that, but most importantly, subscribe, because like I said, I'm always going to keep you in the loop with the newest, latest, freshest, most up-to-date, recent information in the world of silver. Now, is silver divorcing gold on pure fundamentals? For almost as long as the terms precious metals and safe haven have been around, gold has ruled always. I mean, gold is king, and silver playing the second fiddle. That's true, but I mean, back in the day, it wasn't as dramatic as it is nowadays. Back in the day, they thought silver was magical. The ratio was 2.5 to 1. 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold. So back in the day, silver and gold are basically equivalent. It wasn't until like 1930, FDR got in office and devalued silver. So after gold's struggle with $1,900 levels over the past month, silver started marching somewhat to its own drum, prompting the question, are the two metals divorcing? And this says it's too early to tell, but I definitely think it is. I definitely think it is. There's tons of evidence. There's tons of, I mean, it's blatantly obvious that at some point it will, because where silver is going to be expanding and going to be adapting to and adjusting to, gold simply can't. Literally can't. Gold is not an industrial metal, and that's what's going to be pushing silver higher over the next couple of decades. So, if anything, silver's relatively a better performance against gold since mid-May, since the fizzle over the next couple of weeks, or even faster. But the numbers in silver's favor, with 2 weekly losses out of 3 and a net loss of 0.9% compared with gold's 3-week losses and a net drop of 2.1%, may lend credence to something else: industrial demand. Like gold, silver has a fundamental story too, an industrial one, really. It reigns as the #1 metal for electricity and thermal conductivity, as we know. And nowhere is the industrial emphasis on silver greater than in the Green New Deal of President Joe Biden. Zero net emissions by 2050. He intends to spend 1.7 trillion in federal money and leverage an additional 5 trillion in private sector and local investment funds for the so-called Green New Deal. And that alone is going to collapse the dollar, which would also push precious metals higher. But that's not even the angle we're looking at this from. In the world, silver is the real gold, enabling a green economy of solar panels that will light up and power homes and buildings and serve as the conduit for batteries that will run our electric vehicles, just to name a few. But that world is so futuristic. It's also futuristic, and it's built on a hypothesis. The real deal is where silver is trading today versus gold. It's based on the price ratio between the two metals that tells us silver's independent value. The smaller ratio, the better for silver. And we know that the lower the gold to silver ratio is, means silver's a better investment. And the ratio is extremely low compared to 125 to 1 in March 2020. So gold, in contrast, hit 1 month lows beneath $1,850. Right, speculators shorted the yellow metal in rising conviction that the Federal Reserve would indicate its policy meeting this week some kind of timetable for the tapering of its asset purchases to support the U.S. economy. The gold to silver ratio was at 67 to 1. But if silver continues climbing, how high could it go? It suggests near-term peaks between $27, $28 to $29, depending on which of its top two variants, Fibonacci or Classic. That appeals to the market participants. So a technical analysis shows spot price manages to prevent a breakdown. It could reach $31. And it's looking like still has some room to further break above that, and with spot price of gold in the RSI extremely oversold. So it's looking like silver is going to start outperforming gold. It already is, but when we're looking at the zero net emissions by 2050, that's something you can't deny. When the economy's in good shape, gold doesn't do well at all. Silver does, though, and that's what this article's talking about. But this article is very interesting, to say the least, because we're talking about the executive director of the Silver Institute. There is no source of information above the Silver Institute. They are literally the holy grail. Like, they run everything. When they put out numbers, those are the numbers everyone else goes off of. So the executive director is interviewed in this, and that's why this article is so special. What are your expectations for silver in 2021? So the Silver Institute and our consultants at Metals Focus see the economic recovery that is underway continuing over the rest of the year, and that in turn will be good news for silver. As for silver's supply and demand fundamentals, our full year projections for 2021 show gains for every single line in our supply demand table. Mine production, for example, is expected to rise by 8% as output recovers after last year's situation-related disruptions. Recycling is also expected to increase, helped by the stronger silver price. Overall, supply is forecast to rise by 8% to 1,056 million ounces in 2021. In our view, all of this is conductive to further price gains. We expect silver to rise to peak of $32 later in the year, and that will average $27 overall in 2027, or in 2021, achieving a 33% year-on-year increase. A 33% increase. And not only that, silver was the #1 performing asset in 2020. No other, not even Bitcoin, not Tesla stocks, not Amazon stocks, nothing outperformed silver in 2020. But nobody talks about that because it's silver. If that would have been Bitcoin or whatever, every article would have been talking about it. But it was silver, so it gets swept under the rug. Why is that, you think? Let me know. So, question. What factors make you believe that silver is the metal of the year? A. Industrial demand globally is expected to see an 8% rise this year to a record high of 524 million ounces. Much of the increase will come from a reopening of economies and investment in green energy solutions, as illustrated by our expectations, respectively, of healthy gains for end-use ethylene oxide catalysts and photovoltaics. Silver's use in the automotive industry should also be robust, aided by surging sales of electric vehicles. Demand overall is also benefiting from still limited thrifting and substitution. Jewelry fabrication is forecast to increase by a substantial 24%, which is really interesting. That's actually a really interesting, because usually jewelry is one of the smallest factors. Gold is used more for jewelry, actually primarily for jewelry. So silver is up 24% in jewelry. That's big, 184 million ounces. This will primarily be driven by retailers follow through restocking and, more importantly, easing the situation's restrictions and economic recovery. That said, this will still fall short of 2019 levels due to high prices and lingering damage. In the U.S., we are confident these gains for consumption and even more so for fabrication this year as the economy recovers. Global silverware demand is also forecast to rebound this year by 32%. So you can see why silver benefits when the economy is in good shape, because things start opening up, people start using this stuff again, it gets distributed. And since silver is so finely intertwined in everything, you could see how it helps, where gold simply doesn't. So net physical investment is likely to see further strong gains in 2021, with demand forecast to rise by 26%, its highest level since 2015. Western markets will build on gains from 2020, while the sharp bounce back in India will be driven by the base effect and investors. They're taking advantage of the percent price correction. Of course, we're going to be taking advantage of that. Question: how will Mexico be affected by the increase in prices and demand for silver? A, we believe Mexico, and he's asking this a lot because Mexico, Peru, Chile, China, they got hit hard from the quote-unquote situation over the last couple of years. Though Mexico and Peru alone produce nearly half of the total global supply of silver. So that was a huge disruption. So A, we believe Mexico will benefit from both silver and as an industrial and financial metal. This year, silver's producers in Mexico should see some recovery over 2020, as we expect global silver mine production to rebound strongly in 2021. That's rising by 8.2% year on year to 848 million ounces. Mined silver output has largely returned to full capacity by the end of 2020, as miners had successfully implemented new procedures to protect workers and ramped up production rates following temporary mine closures due to nationwide lockdowns earlier in the year. As a result, combined with the global vaccine rollout, mines are expected to operate at full capacity throughout the year, which will be the primary driver behind production growth. The biggest increases will be from those countries where mining was most heavily impacted, such as Mexico, right? Just like I was talking about, Mexico is expected to have particularly robust growth as new projects will be developed. And these increases will be lessened by grade-related declines at individual mines elsewhere, but relatively high in silver. The relatively high silver price should ensure there are no additional drops in output due to market-induced mine closures. And that's interesting. I covered an article about this a couple months ago, where they go off silver's price distinct. It's extremely interesting to look at the way they mine silver goes off of pricing, but it's the exact opposite as you would think. If the price is higher, they actually mine more, and you would think that or I think it's backwards. The price is lower, they mine more. But I'm trying to think what the article was covering, because they're talking about the ore grade too. It was a very complex article. It was an interesting one, but they talk about it a little bit right here. Where was that at? So these increases will be lessened by grade-related declines at individual mines elsewhere, but the relatively high silver price should ensure there are no additional drops in output due to market-induced mine closures. So yeah. So on the demand side, as mentioned previously, we project that all areas of the demand are forecast to rise in 2021, which will assist the projected rise in silver's price. silver demand should enjoy solid growth from 2022 onward, and we're talking about for decades and decades. Mexican industrial offtake, for instance, will initially benefit from everything reopening of economies, but perhaps more interest, its structural potential. And actually, to go back up here, they said the demand's forecast to rise in 2021 and solid growth from 2022 onward, and that is where I think silver is going to really divorce gold. And that's where we're going to see silver take on a new life of its own, like I've been talking about for the last several years. So we already know that they're talking about the electric vehicles, 5G devices. I've talked about that plenty. But anyways, we think that 2021 and beyond will be very good for Mexico. So, there's a lot happening. I thought this was a great article coming from, the executive director of the Holy Grail of information. I mean, you can't get any better than that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to comment. I have a lot of other stuff planned. I'm going to be trying to think outside the box, get a little more creative. If you guys didn't see that article, the interview that I went into my local coin shop and asked him a lot of questions, I highly recommend you go check that video out. We got into some deep conversations, probably about 10 minutes of just talking about silver and picking his brain. Some good stuff. I highly recommend going and checking that video out. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you thought this video was 1, educational, 2, informational, and 3, at least entertaining, make sure to smash that like button. This was Silver Slayer. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.